The WNBA's Brittney Griner is, in fact, a man.
Flag you. Brittney, let me see something real quick. Brick! Thank you! Get the hell out of here, yo! Yo! Jab stepping. It's the brick. Swing and a miss!
Oh!
Yo, I ain't gonna fake.
The WNBA has just made one of the most controversial decisions in its history. Starting next season, all players will be required to undergo mandatory sex testing to remain eligible for the women's division. And in a move that's already sparking outrage and debate, the league has named Brittney Griner directly, stating that she will not be allowed to compete until she completes the required testing.
It was a lot that kind of led to it. The 2 games before, when she was in Connecticut, first game, she came in and hitting, elbowing, and I talked to one of the refs when she checks in. Hey, we got history from the first game.
There's not just the voice, there's these pictures, that have come out. And I know a lot of people immediately want to say, well, these are, they're not real pictures, right? They're doctored photographs. But this one I saw, I was like, man, that's actually the girlfriend in the background. But let's say this is doctored.
This announcement has ignited a firestorm across the sports world, raising serious questions about gender identity, inclusion, and fairness in women's athletics. As fans, advocates, and fellow players react, the future of the league and its most prominent figures hangs in the balance. Officials say this step is intended to preserve the integrity of women's basketball amid growing debates about gender identity in sports.
Everybody knows who Brittney Griner is, and if you don't know who Brittney Griner is, she is the WNBA star that we traded a weapons terrorist for about a year ago. And recently, a momentous personal occasion has happened for her.
You're about to be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
How is that feeling? Pops. Oh, let me get it together. About to be a pops.
Now look, man, it's 2024. I don't care if a woman and a woman want to have a kid together. Good on them. More power to them. But it's just so weird to me. You want your son to call you Pops, and whenever his friends ask, what does your dad do for a living? He's supposed to say, oh, he plays in the WNBA. Now,
there's probably one other job that you're about to get into that is really hard and really scary. You're about to be a mom. How is that feeling? Pops. Oh, let me get it together. About to be a pops. Please tell me how exciting that is for you and what you're looking forward to most.
I'm super excited. Well, I mean, I guess I'll just drop it. He's here. So he's here. Yes. 7'8", 24. Yeah. 7 pounds, 8 ounces. Yeah. That's my man.
I love that.
He is amazing. They say, as soon as you see him, it just like everything that you thought mattered just goes out the window. And that's literally what happens. It's kind of sucks because I got to leave.
Yeah.
One of the biggest names impacted by this announcement is Brittney Griner. According to the league, Griner will not be permitted to compete in the WNBA until he undergoes the required testing. This decision has sent shockwaves through the basketball community, not only because of Griner's high profile, but also due to his long-established role as a dominant force in the league. With multiple all-star appearances and a championship under his belt, Griner has become a symbol of excellence in women's basketball. The sudden questioning of his eligibility has left many fans stunned and has ignited intense debate over the implications of this policy. In response to the league's announcement, Brittney Griner expressed deep disappointment and concern over the direction the WNBA is taking.
Can't even get an intro out. Because, guys, it is now confirmed. Brittney Griner, Brett Griner, I don't know what to actually call them, but it seems like him, Brittney Griner has confirmed that she is a male.
In a heartfelt statement, Griner emphasized the critical importance of representation and inclusion in professional sports, warning that policies like mandatory sex testing threaten to marginalize athletes who already face significant barriers. She voiced her belief that sports should be a platform for unity, not exclusion, and called on the WNBA to reevaluate the broader impact of such regulations. According to Griner, enforcing strict gender verification standards not only invades privacy, but also sends a harmful message to young athletes who may already feel alienated. Instead of moving backward, she urged the league to lead with compassion and foster a culture that values acceptance, diversity, and human dignity. Supporters of the WNBA's decision often point to a broader concern that transcends just one league or one athlete. They believe that without biological standards, the very definition of women's sports could be blurred. In their view, women have fought for decades to carve out a space of their own in the competitive arena, and introducing variables that could disrupt that balance might undermine hard-won progress. Some advocates argue that women's sports are already under-resourced and under-promoted compared to their male counterparts. They fear that failing to set clear eligibility rules could add controversy and confusion to a league that is just now gaining wider mainstream attention and financial investment. For them, the policy is not about discrimination, but preservation, about ensuring that women athletes have a fair and secure environment to thrive. Moreover, these supporters often cite precedents in global athletics. They reference rulings from international bodies like World Athletics or the International Olympic Committee, which have implemented hormone and sex verification standards in certain events to address perceived performance disparities. From this lens, the WNBA is not acting alone, but aligning itself with a broader movement within sports governance that prioritizes biological markers as the basis for eligibility. Ultimately, those in favor see this decision as a difficult but necessary measure, a line drawn not to exclude identities, but to protect competitive integrity and honor the spirit of women's sports as it was originally intended. They believe that enforcing consistent, science-based standards is essential to preserving the trust of fans, athletes, and the broader sporting community. However, critics of the policy see it as a regressive and discriminatory measure. They argue that enforcing such testing risks alienating transgender and non-binary athletes, who already face widespread stigma and underrepresentation. Many warn that these rules could lead to invasive and humiliating procedures, forcing players to prove their identity just to continue playing the game they love. Civil rights advocates, health experts, and athletes themselves are raising concerns that this decision could deter participation, damage careers, and ultimately send the message that only certain bodies are welcome in professional women's sports. This decision places the WNBA at the heart of an increasingly complex and emotionally charged global conversation, one centered around gender identity, biological sex, and the definition of fairness in sports. As society's understanding of gender continues to evolve, sports organizations around the world are facing growing pressure to determine how inclusion and competition can coexist in elite-level athletics. Across the sports landscape, from Olympic track and field events to collegiate swimming meets, the debate over eligibility criteria in women's divisions has become one of the most divisive issues of our time. On one side, advocates for inclusivity stress the importance of recognizing and respecting athletes' gender identities, arguing that sport should be a space for all individuals to compete as their authentic selves. On the other, proponents of biological standards argue that physical advantages linked to sex at birth, such as bone density, muscle mass, and aerobic capacity, can impact performance, and therefore, competition must be structured around biological classifications to remain fair. The WNBA's decision echoes similar controversies faced by governing bodies like World Athletics, FINA, International Swimming Federation, and the NCAA, all of which have introduced or revised eligibility standards in recent years. These organizations have wrestled with difficult questions. Should testosterone levels dictate participation? How do you weigh inclusion against competitive equity? And is it possible to establish rules that are both fair and compassionate? By implementing this new policy, the WNBA has effectively stepped into the center of this global debate, whether intentionally or not. The league's actions will not only influence its own future, but may also set a precedent for how other professional leagues, especially those in women's sports, navigate the increasingly urgent questions of gender, biology, and fairness in athletic competition. By taking a firm stance through mandatory sex testing, the WNBA has positioned itself as a trailblazer in one of the most contentious arenas in modern sports. This decision doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's a move that could reverberate throughout the sports world, potentially influencing how other leagues, both national and international, approach similar issues related to gender identity and competitive fairness, such as bone density, muscle mass, and aerobic capacity, can impact performance, and therefore, competition must be structured around biological classifications to remain fair. The WNBA's decision echoes similar controversies faced by governing bodies like World Athletics, FINA, International Swimming Federation, and the NCAA, all of which have introduced or revised eligibility standards in recent years. These organizations have wrestled with difficult questions. Should testosterone levels dictate participation? How do you weigh inclusion against competitive equity? And is it possible to establish rules that are both fair and compassionate? By implementing this new policy, the WNBA has effectively stepped into the center of this global debate, whether intentionally or not. The league's actions will not only influence its own future, but may also set a precedent for how other professional leagues, especially those in women's sports, navigate the increasingly urgent questions of gender, biology, and fairness in athletic competition. By taking a firm stance through mandatory sex testing, the WNBA has positioned itself as a trailblazer in one of the most contentious arenas in modern sports. This decision doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's a move that could reverberate throughout the sports world, potentially influencing how other leagues, both national and international, approach similar issues related to gender identity and competitive fairness.